欢迎收看《亚洲经营者》，我是崔燕。在亚洲市场上，豪华车的销量呢正在节节攀升。德国 BMW 集团当然不会坐失良机。今天我们就来听一听 BMW 的亚洲区董事总经理为这一地区描绘的蓝图。
Roland Kruger 一直疾驰在快车道上，目前他为全球最大的豪华车制造商 BMW 管理着亚洲地区的12个市场。这位经理人坦言，他对于汽车总是有着一种情结。
It's actually a little bit of the story of my life. I'm always into cars. I always own a few cars privately, and even when I remember back in my school days, I was always fascinated by cars.
出于对汽车的热爱，Kruger 在大学学习了工业设计，后来他为三菱和奔驰设计过汽车。
I always say in my former life I was a designer, and that has formed a lot of my understanding of how a car is developed and how the process of the value chain in automotive industry works.
但是 Kruger 不久以后就改变了自己的职业轨迹，从英西亚商学院得到 MBA 学位后，他在1998年加入 BMW， 开始担任管理工作。这位2个孩子的父亲在公司的职位稳步上升。3年前，他被任命为亚洲地区的主管。当时 Kruger 做的第一件事情就是适应这个地区的速度。
I went through all the markets that we are in charge of, and I had not only a look at our partners at our facilities, but very important, I met probably 70% of all people that work in the network.
Kruger 认为，亚洲带给他的最大挑战就是管理那些独具特色的市场。
I call them the colors of Asia, and really the art of managing Asia is the art of managing that diversity. For example, is when it comes to how the market works here in Singapore to, let's say, India. In Singapore, you have the customer expectation that there's a very close proximity between the purchasing decision and actually the product in the hands of the customer. Whereas in India, we have a lot of individualization of cars where people are expected or prepared to wait a longer time, and we individualize their product right to their needs, but then it would take a little bit more time to market.
随着亚洲富豪不断在世界上崭露头角，这家德国汽车制造商正在全力以赴挖掘亚洲市场的每一分潜力。
It comes back to how you can actually excite people about the BMW brand. So one side is that we as managers have to bring across the values of the brand because they give a strong identity to our team, to the people on the ground. And on the other side, we have to make sure that the services that we provide and the products that we offer are actually on top of the market. So we have to watch the market. Of course, we have to watch the competition. And we have to configure the cars in a way that we can excite people and emotionally attach them to the brand.
You work closely with 27 dealers in the 12 markets here in the region. How do you go about selecting the dealers you want to work with? Is it all about finding someone who has the most capital to give you the best showrooms?
Yeah, in general, yes, you need, of course, financially strong entrepreneurs. And we, as the BMW Group, believe very strongly in that concept. We want to have local competence on the ground, and we need that local entrepreneur in the respective countries.
What's your criteria?
Financial criteria, of course, background, but on top of that, and that is a little bit of a different thing when it comes to BMW, we really look into the team. We look into the people. We look into, is this management team, are these people capable of handling the brand? Because in the end, if you think about the customer, this service advisor, this salesman is representing the BMW brand. And we go also to great lengths to train them, and not only train them in technical skills or sales skills, but we train them also what we call a brand academy. In the future, all our associates will have to go through a brand academy, and they will be certified. So this is one of the criteria, which is a little bit of it's a soft criteria, not as hard as facts and figures, but it becomes very important to us. It's actually the key differentiator between a good business and a BMW.
Since you were put in charge of the region, have you had to terminate a dealership?
Again, it is not something that we want to talk about, so we usually try to help.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
You had to go through a very difficult process.
That is a difficult process for everyone, and it is difficult for the business partners, it's difficult for us, and we always try to look forward. We really try to help and apply the right tools to the market.
好，稍事休息，广告之后 ，Roland Kruger 将亚洲经营者。我们今天的嘉宾是 Roland Kruger， 他为总部设在慕尼黑的 BMW 集团管理着亚洲地区的业务。近年来 ，BMW 已经超越了竞争对手奔驰，成为全球最大的豪华车制造商。
For the first time, I understand BMW has launched the 5 Series, developed specifically for the China market. Now, I know you're not in charge of China, but can you tell us why the company has made an exception for China?
First of all, I would not call it an exception. I would call it a natural development of looking into customer requirements and making sure we have the right car for the right market. And here we found that in China specifically, there is a certain part of the market which is very unique to China, which has requirements that we can fulfill better with a 5 Series which is a little bit longer than the 5 Series you would find in other markets. And that was the initial start of a development where then this car was designed to cater this market segment. And we are specifically providing this to China at the moment.
What is it about the China market that requires a longer 5 Series?
The customers who use this vehicle have chauffeurs, and they sit in the back, and therefore they need a little bit more legroom, a little bit more comfort.
How fast is the China market growing?
Sometimes, and it's not only for China true, sometimes speed is the only thing you really have to take care about, because in many of our markets here in Asia, you have the phenomenon that there's overproportional growth in some stages of market development, and you really have to cater to that market in a way to manage your supply chain properly. And it is a challenge to everyone.
Besides India and China, you also have assembly operations in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. Apart from complying with specific tax regulations to use a certain amount of local content, how far are you willing to localize the sourcing of your parts here in Asia?
One of the criteria is to comply to local laws and regulation with the local content that we have to fulfill.